Communication can be
Okay.
with the seniors, sponsors, people like those status. It
Mhm.
can be with the CEOs, MD, sponsor, all those. All those communication is known as upward communication. Then you have a downward communication. Downward communication mean the communication you are having with a team. Then you have a sideward communication, the communication with the peer. For example, if you're a project manager and you're having communication with the other project manager, or the people of the same area, maybe functional manager, it is called sideward communication. You can have a communication with other projects also that will also be considered as sideward. Your communication can be internal. All the communication that is done with the team is always internal. The stakeholders are internal to your organization, you have internal communication. If you communicate outside of the organization, maybe with the government or maybe with the client, you have external communication. Internal, external, vertical, horizontal. So basically the communication moves or flow in all the direction. Then we have two major type of communication. Formal, written, and
Okay.
written and verbal basically. Written and verbal. Then in written, we have formal written, informal written, verbal, formal verbal, informal verbal. Formal written is like project charter, which you sign. Always remember, in order for communication to be formal, it has to be signed by someone. Okay?
Signed by.
Yeah, it has to be signed by authority. Like for project charter, it is signed by sponsor, so it's a formal. If you do a letters like long distance communication, government notices, it is always signed by a government official, so it's a formal written communication. Then informal written, if I do messages, if I do text, all these communications are informal communication. Now verbal communication, when verbal communication become formal, when we have a presentation, when we have a speech to make, or sometime when we need to communicate with the sponsor or some team member, and that is very important. We sometimes make it a formal communication. Generally, meeting and conversation is classified as informal.
Mm.
Can be internal, external, formal, informal, vertical, horizontal, official, unofficial, written, oral, verbal, non-verbal. Effective communication is the key to the success in the project. We basically have 7 C's in communication, but PMI deals with 5 C. The communication has to be correct. Grammar and spelling has to be correct. The communication has to be concise. There must be no elimination of words. The purpose must be clear. The ideas must flow in logical way, coherent, and the communication must be controlled. From where the ideas are coming, now the ideas are moving along the plan. Communication when the most important thing. Here you plan what communication should be given to which stakeholder. The goal is right format must reach to the right person on the right time to have the right impact. Here you analyze the needs of the stakeholders, their requirement, the organizational asset through all the channels, and see how you basically can communicate with them. Like we have different types of tools. We basically analyze what are the requirements of the communication. In order to analyze what are the requirements, we utilized organizational charts, project responsibility, disciplines, how many person are there. Let's say there are 4 person involved in a project. Then we say A, B, C, D. How many channels are there that communication can flow? The communication can also flow this way. So if there are 4 person, we have one, two, three, four, five, 6 channel. We can do this way, or we have a formula n into n minus 1 by 2. Number of stakeholders are 4. So let's put 4. 4 minus 1, 3, 2, 2 ones are 2, 6. So we can calculate how many channels are there. So let's say we have 10 stakeholders. So the number of channels will be 10. 10 minus 1, 9.
Uh,
10 into 9.
5, 45.
Okay. Yeah. 45. Good. So that's how basically you will get a question regarding this in the exam. No, it's important. So communication technology, you see which communication technology to use depending upon the availability, which technology is available. So if you want to communicate with a person who is in China, You cannot use WhatsApp. You have to ensure which communication is available in that area and then communicate accordingly. Then you check what is the urgency of the communication. The communication is very urgent. Let's say I want to communicate with you, that is very urgent. I don't send you email or message, I call you, or I go to face conversation. Then communication
mm,
also depends how much staff you have. If you have a lot more staffs, then you need to see a different type of communication method. What is the
mm,
environment of the project and duration of the project? For example, if we have a 10-year projects, maybe we can install some antennas of the different network supplier for internet, for calling, so that we can facilitate ourselves. Then we go with
mm.
the communication method. But there are three type of major communication method. Push communication, you are just speaking.
Please, please check.
So you have push communication, pull communication, interactive communication. In push communication, you are sending the information all the time, like commercials, TV. If you get up SMS, emails, all these types are push communication. Pull communication is always whatever you get the full communication is when you are getting information out of it. Going on the YouTube and watching videos, it is a pull communication. Going to a dashboard and checking the dashboard, it is a pull or interactive communication. Always going and taking e-learning is pull communication. Interactive is video conferencing, maybe phone call when we are talking to each other. This is clear. Whenever you are communicating with anyone, there's always a model there, communication model. Someone is sending the information and someone is receiving the information. Let's say I'm talking right now, I am sending the information and you are receiving the information. Anything that hindered our communication, anything, it can be slow internet, it can be a background sound, anything that hinders our communication, it can be a language barrier, it is always known as noise. That communication is called as noise. Okay, that hindrance phase which damage or message is called noise. Then you said, okay, that is a feedback, you are giving information back. So I send the information, I basically encode it, maybe write in a format, whatever I say, I am encoding it. The message is going through the medium. If there is any interruption, that is a noise, you receive the, you understand it, you give the feedback, and that's how basically message is communicated always. Basically we are developing an approach, plan for the communication basis on the stakeholders need, their requirement, what do they need basically, na? What is the need of organization. Here we identify the best approach in order to have effective communication. In other words, right format, right audience, and right time to have right impact. Only providing the information that is needed, we get an effective and most efficient approach of communication. So we basically identify who needs the information, in which format the information should be given, who is authorized to share that information, how to get that information, when they will need the information, the time zone, language barrier, where the information will be stored, culture consideration. All these things are addressed here. Communication management plan is very important. It tells us how the information will be stored, retrieved, maintained, distributed, what communication systems are placed, how information will be managed, who is involved, what is the team, what are the ground rules, what are the expectations of stakeholders, communication requirement, information stored, time frame, and frequency. When the information will be given daily, weekly, monthly, who is responsible person, whom to give, all these things